Hello there! Welcome back to Void Dwarf Studios, everyone. And today we get into part 3 of our Eldar videos, talking about the various notable heroes. Now, predominantly these will be the Phoenix Lords, but the last 3 are very much heroes who are wandering the galaxy and kicking arse in the name of the Eldar craftworlds. And some of them are helping the Inari out. A quick thing before we start. You're going to hear me say Eldar and Eldari a lot during this video, and I switch back and forth between the two. Why? Well, I know that they're now called Eldari, but Eldar is really what I've known them as all my life until this point. So I apologise if I keep switching back and forth, and I hope this doesn't get too confusing. Right, first up, I suppose we should get down to the basics. Most of these are Phoenix Lords, the most ancient of the Exarchs. You might remember in my previous video I mentioned the Exarchs, who are the leaders of the various temples of the different styles of fighting. You know, the Howling Banshee, Swooping Hawks, the Fire Dragons, Striking Scorpions, Dire Avengers, that kind of thing. Each Phoenix Lord founded one of these warrior shrines. They are the first, if not the oldest, of the Exarchs, almost considered immortal after a fashion, as when a Phoenix Lord is slain, all of their armour, their iconography, their paraphernalia of war is given to their successor, and their name is equally changed. For the Eldar, this is more than just a transference of leadership. This is to represent the cycle of rebirth and reincarnation that they believed in before the fall. Each Phoenix Lord armour contains a spirit stone or a fragment of a spirit stone that belonged to one of the original wearers. So in essence, every Phoenix Lord is the same Phoenix Lord from ages past. Their minds driven by the same personalities that originally donned their armour and went out to form their various shrines and temples. Over the millennia, each one of these Phoenix Lords has disappeared in and out of history. However, as the Great Rift opened up, splitting the galaxy in two, all the Phoenix Lords have reappeared, including on a few occasions fighting the same battles at the same time. So, starting at the beginning, and possibly the most famous of the Phoenix Lords, Azure, the Hand of Azure. Azure being the Eldar's Zeus, you could say, the Elder God, the one in charge of the Pantheon, well, when he was alive. Azure is the first and oldest of the Phoenix Lords that exist today. He's known as the Hand of Azure as he was the Phoenix Lord who led his people into exile, trying to get as far away from their kinky Eldar cousins as much as possible, as even before Slaanesh became a real god, these exiles did not like what was happening, abandoning the world behind before it was consumed by the warp. He founded the first aspect shrines. From the shrine of Azura sprang the Asura, the aspect warriors, the first aspect warriors. He is the father of the Dire Avengers, believed to be the most noble and vengeful of all the aspect warriors. He has founded more shrines on more craft worlds than any other Phoenix Lord, although he has vanished in and out of history, crusading across the galaxy by himself or with a small company of followers, vanquishing the agents of chaos, going in and out of the Eye of Terror, relentlessly improving his skills. And whenever he comes across a new craft world that happens to have no temple to the Dire Avengers, he will stay for a little while and set one up, making sure that there is a suitable Exarch left behind to continue the training. Just as the Exarchs who follow in his position, Azure is immortal. Should he fall in battle, his suit of armour will be taken and placed inside the temple, and an aspirant who feels the call upon him, who resonates with the spirit stone within the armour, will be trained and then chosen to wear the armour, becoming the new Azure. As well as having a fantastic suit of armour, crafted in the ancient days of the Eldar Empire, Azure carries a very nice wrist-mounted shuriken catapult, a beautiful weapon of exceptional firepower, and if you are not lucky enough to die from the shuriken catapult on his wrist, he has a dire sword, bound to his hilt by a spirit stone of Azure's brother, Tethesis. And when I say brother, I mean the original Azure, back in the days when the Eldar had just fallen to Slaanesh, who was killed by a demon. He managed to bind his brother's soul into a spirit stone, so they could remain together forever, so that he can continue the fight against the servants of the great enemy. This sword, known as the Sword of Azure, is an ancient dire sword, and I must say he cuts quite a striking figure. You'd be very hard to miss this guy on the battlefield, although trying to hit him would be a difficult exercise at the best of times, as the Dire Avengers themselves copy his art of war, basically don't be in the same place, constantly keep moving, and always surprise the enemy. Yeah, you're going to have a hard time trying to tag Azure, and I reckon he's going to be trouncing around the galaxy, causing all kinds of problems for some time. Now, as I said earlier, Azure is responsible for all the Aspect Warrior shrines in one way or another, for it was he who started the tradition of the warrior path, and took many disciples in, including the next few Phoenix Lords. They were initially trained all under Azure and diversed into their own particular brand of war. The first Phoenix Lord we're going to talk about actually fell the furthest away from Azure's vision, for he was a being who escaped the fall of his world when the psychic shockwave enveloped it, bringing it into the Eye of Terror. His name was Magnan Ra, the Harvester of Souls, and Phoenix Lord of the Dark Reapers. When Azure taught his brethren the arts of war, it was Magnan Ra that fell furthest from his vision. He fashioned Baruch weapons of an occult nature, skulls, bone, iconography of death. No shining blades as his brothers, but instead dark, malefic artifacts that could slay foes from afar. For Magnan Ra's appearance was not just dark for the sake of it. Magnan Ra was consumed by the grief of his lost homeworld, and the belief that he may never see it again. As his skills progressed, Magnan Ra learned that even the most outlandish of weapons could be used with the precision of a scalpel. His discovery of this and his mastery of each of these diverse facets of ranged combat is behind the principles and disciplines of the Dark Reaper aspect, as well as the creation of his own weapon, the Malgater. This scythe-like weapon, built with a shrieking patterned shuriken cannon, fires mind-linked discs large enough to decapitate a swathe of enemies, and the curved blade making short work of anyone who gets too close. 10,000 years after the Eye of Terror swallowed Magnan Ra's world, and the forces of chaos spewed forth into the galaxy, Magnan Ra took his chance, and with his Aspect Warriors went in to discover what had happened to his lost world. And much to his surprise, the world was still there, and he managed to guide what was left of the craft world out of the Eye of Terror. However, the Eldar were unsettled with these survivors from the world of Alantazar. The people who managed to survive were quiet, reclusive, withdrawn, haunted by what they had seen, and unwilling to speak of it. And they made the others feel unsettled. For how could any living Eldar survive in the Eye of Terror and not be consumed by Slaanesh? It is because of his people's suffering that Magnan Ra continues to go forth into the galaxy and reap a bloody tally for the suffering of his people. The Aspect Shrine of the Dark Reapers is all about ranged combat. It is about shooting your enemy from afar and making sure that they never knew what hit them. The skeletal appearance being there not only to frighten but also to symbolize Magnan Ra's grief and rage and the death that his people have suffered. But with a gun that is capable of shredding not only swathes of infantry but anything with any kind of toughness to pieces, it would be very hard for anything to survive this. Now we come to one of the first Phoenix Lords trained by Azure, and she recently got a really nice new model in the new Eldar box set. Her name is Jane Zar, known as the Storm of Silence. When Azure raised the original Aspect Warriors, she was the first to learn under his tutelage. She was a passionate Eldar sword maiden, famed for her speed and ferocity. Once her training was complete, Jane Zar travelled the webway extensively, perfecting her skills, creating new devotees and leading them down her warrior path. She is very active in the Eldar community even till this day, disappearing for centuries at a time, but always returning to her shrines, and her maidens never doubt that she will return. It is her speed and swiftness that makes the Howling Banshees, her daughters, one of the most feared aspect shrines. And it was Jane Zar who perfected the technology that they called Scream That Steals, the Howling Banshee mask that creates the psychosonic barrage that deafens, stuns, and confuses their foes. This death-dealing war cry has been heard across the galaxy ever since. Jane Zar has been the most active of all the Phoenix Lords against the great enemy, Slaanesh. With her hundreds of Howling Banshees, she has leapt into battle at any opportunity to fight the demon, or the Chaos Space Marine, or the cultist. Always at the front of the charge, she carries the Blade of Destruction, a long, elegant, balanced polearm, originating from the distant past before the Eldar fell. This blade carves through foes, making parries effortless and giving her the leverage to vault over her opponent and stab them in the back. With a flick of her wrist, the silent death is unleashed. This triple-bladed throwing star, forged in the ghostly fires of the warp, when thrown, fire licks around the blade's edges as it spins, decapitating bodies and slicing through armor. To try and watch Jane Zar in combat is like trying to keep your eye on a fly that's moving faster than light. Her graceful dodges and twists, pirouettes, as she darts in and out of the foe, leaves many an exarch standing in utter confusion. No other Phoenix Lord has championed the cause of the Ynnari as much as Jane Zar. She spoke passionately about the hope fostered by Ynit, and came to aid Yvraine and her followers on multiple occasions since their first meeting aboard the Bialtan craft world. The Howling Banshee Shrine is one of my personal favourites. It is a predominantly female order, although some Howling Banshees are male, but this is rare, where it is all about getting into combat as fast as possible, using your speed, your flexibility, and making the most of the Eldar's natural attributes, their reflexes and ability to dodge, to be amongst the enemy, slicing and dicing, and causing all kinds of trouble. And with the ever-famous Howling Banshee scream, making it even harder for people to stop you, they are a force to be reckoned with. They are a whirlwind, a storm, and where Jane Zar goes, the Howling Banshees fight all the harder. Also, her new model looks awesome. So awesome, in fact, it briefly made me tempted to play an Eldar army, but yeah, don't tell my Black Templars that. Or my fiancée, she collects Eldar. And now we come to one of the oldest of the Phoenix Lords, Baja Roth, the Cry of the Wind, the Phoenix Lord of the Swooping Hawks. Out of all the Phoenix Lord, he is, despite being one of the oldest, considered to be one of the most vibrant and, ironically, youthful, reveling in the sensation of the sun in his wings, flying across the Eldar maiden worlds, and full of hope for the future. Balroth and Magnan Ra, despite their differences, are very much brothers, one being like the sun and the other being of the moon, and many of the Eldar's deadliest foes have met their doom at the edge of their blades, as they often work together. Baharoth has been reborn many times in a new exarch body, but every time he is reborn, and every time he exacts his vengeance upon those who had felled him. He is known for his speed, and he is one of the fastest of the Eldari ever to live, flying effortlessly through the air, but his attacks are much like a hurricane. He is often considered to be a sign of victory, for when he appears above the battlefield with his wings spread, he appears like a glorious hero, looping and soaring through the skies, blasting enemies out of the sky with his pinpoint precision firepower. Where Baharoth passes close to the ground, it burns with a white light, setting fires wherever he goes. This guy would be an absolute menace for a park ranger. He'd have to constantly make sure he never sets foot on the ground, otherwise he'd have to fight forest fires. The last thing most people ever see of Baharoth is the glare in his eyes as he's removing your head from your torso. Baharoth has led the Eldar through various trials and perfected the tactic he is referred to as the Hawk Strike. It is a precision tactic that requires speed above all else, for the Eldar's numbers mean that it's hard to maintain air superiority, as they are often overwhelmingly outnumbered. But thanks to Baharoth's Hawk Strike, it is all about striking fast, hard, and hitting them before they even realise what happened. His special weapon, the Shining Blade, has possibly got one of the best mythical stories to it I've heard since Mjolnir. Legend says was forged by the daughters of Vol, the Eldar god of the forge, and it was forged in the dying fires of a supernova. And considering that the Eldar had control at one point over their gods and could make them do whatever they liked, this story about being forged in the dying fires of a supernova, it may well have some truth behind it. And if that's the case, that is one badass way for something to be created. This blade reflects light and shines so brightly that it is painful for anyone who stares upon it with malicious intent. With his las blaster and shuriken pistol, he is a precision shot. Batharath and his swooping hawks are a welcome and hopeful sight on any Eldar battlefield, and a fantastic leader for your Eldar army, if you enjoy the aerial assault. And now we come to possibly my favourite of the Phoenix Lords. Mostly because, well, he's playing with fire, and as my past experience with blacksmithing goes, fire is tons of fun. And, he's playing with the fire of suns. Fjorgan, the Burning Lance. When the Asura made their way across the galaxy, it was Fjorgan who founded the Shrines of the Fire Dragons, teaching and advocating the utter annihilation of the enemy, because when your enemy is in a smouldering heap on the ground, you can be fairly confident that it's not getting back up again. It was his hope that the Eldari would understand that destruction was their way of avoiding oblivion, and should not be avoided. He is considered a mighty hero, often depicted holding the cosmic serpent of wisdom. In his footsteps entire worlds are set ablaze, for the dragon of Eldari myth is synonymous with destruction. Smoke rises from his blistering skin, and any who do not address him properly truly regret their rash words, and his wrath often reduces them to ash. He has devoted himself completely to the systematic and total annihilation of the Eldar's enemies. It is his belief that each one of these deaths, these eradications of the Eldar's enemies, creates an unbroken chain, and much like the Eldar myth of Fjorgan and the dragon, that one day this will mean that the dragon itself will be there at the end of days, and he will be its master. Legend claims that the Burning Lance will be the last of his brethren to fall in the final battle of the Ranadandra. The Ranadandra being the Eldar myth of the end of days, the ending of everything. After the destruction of the home planet of Azure, where Azurman trained the original Phoenix Lords, Fjorgan disappeared. Perhaps his most famous victory was when he reappeared during the final battle of Haranamash, where Eldred Lutheran and himself scoured a score of demon lords from the planet with his fire pike, and he claimed a dozen rune axes for himself. The wounds the Phoenix Lord suffered only increased his resolve, and Fjorgan grew stronger and stronger as the fight progressed, the fury of his attacks burning hotter and hotter until the last of his foes fell. Fjorgan has been vanishing backwards and forwards into the warp many times, and emerges only when it serves his purpose, tracking down enemies of his forebears and reducing them to ash. It is his belief that by controlling destruction, or the dragon as they like to call it, is the way to utterly bring back the Eldar to the might they once had. And when you are armed with a fire pike that reduces enemies to ash, doesn't matter if it's a building, a tank, infantryman, space marine, it reduces them all to charred ash. And his legendary axe, he is quite possibly one of the few Eldar who can make this threat count. And the last Phoenix Lord we're going to look at couldn't be more of an opposite to our good friend Fjorgan. Whilst Fjorgan is hot, obvious, fiery, and pretty hard to miss, Karandras, the Shadow Hunter, and current Phoenix Lord of the Striking Scorpions, is far more silent and deadly. Considered to be one of the more mysterious of the Phoenix Lords, no one knows where his shrine originally lay. Perhaps on one of the smaller craft worlds that survived the fall, but destroyed soon after, or perhaps it does not exist in the material world at all. The Phoenix Lord speaks rarely, and almost never about his own origins, but a single shift in his stance can carry a deadly meaning, for his aura is thick with menace. Be they Eldar or not, few have set eyes upon Karandras and lived to tell about it, ensuring that his secrets remain, and he is shrouded in mystery. Karandras is by no means the oldest of the Exarchs, Karandras is unique because, unlike the rest of the Phoenix Lords, who can trace their ancestry back to the very beginning, and who all have the same name as their predecessor, for that honour belongs to the father of Scorpions, Athra. Karandras took Athra's place after his defection, for Athra fell to the dark powers of chaos, and Karandras took his place. Rumours persist this happened when the two Phoenix Lords duelled one another upon the ruins of Xandros, over the shrine of the Slicing Orb, and that only one walked away with what passes for his soul intact. As with many of the secrets that owe their beginnings to the Scorpions, the truth is very hard to tell. Ara could be alive, or he could be dead. Karandras does not tell. While Athra left an undeniable mark on the practices of the striking Scorpions, the patience of the hunter that Karandros taught gave it a whole new edge. A squad of striking Scorpions under Kandros' tutelage will crouch motionless in the darkness, forsaking breath, any movement whatsoever, waiting for the correct moment to strike. Karandros himself embodies this skill to a legendary degree. His armoured body can lay hidden and dormant for decades, waiting upon one of the twilight worlds within the warp. Time and again Karandros has arrived, unexpected and unasked, and struck down any that were in his way. In close quarters, Karandros excels. Once in the melee, his superior Mandiblaster, known as the Scorpion's Bite, strikes too quickly for the eye to follow. His victims reeling, Karandros will spring forward and tear them to shreds with his diamond-tipped chainsword. And even if you by some miracle survive the first strike, Karandros' Scorpion Claw will make short work of any armour that you may wear. For Karandros was born from the shadows, and the shadows are his ally. And once his bloody work has been reaped, he will retreat just as quickly back into the shadows. Right, that's all the Phoenix Lords. Now we're going to talk about some different characters, although this one follows, at least in a way, in the footsteps of the path of the warrior. He is an autarch, a famous autarch in fact, known for his daring raids and for being one of the wielders of a crone sword, a device that is believed to help bring back the god of death. Prince Uriel, autarch of Illidan. Prince Uriel is a consummate Azurian commander, and in his youth, despite his lack of years, he was chosen to walk the path of command because of the level of trust his peers had in him, and those who questioned this decision quickly realized that there was good cause for it. Uriel was a talented, skilled commander, especially when it came to leading fleets in the void of space. Although his victory over many forces of chaos were complete and overwhelming, Uriel earned a lot of enemies because of the many accolades he obtained, and driven by pride he vowed never to set foot on Illidan again. When he left, he took many of the Craft World's ships with him, all feeling loyal to this young prince, and they became known as the Eldritch Raiders, the galaxy's most feared corsair fleet. And if it were not for High Fleet Kraken, the Tyranids, invading his homeworld, Uriel would probably never have returned. But when he heard of the plight of his people and how the Tyranids were devouring his home, Uriel could not stand it, and returned, and after launching a series of daring strikes and landing on the planet, he fought alongside his people. But this was not enough, and so he drew the ill-fated Spear of Twilight, a weapon so potent that it curses the soul of the wielder. However, with this weapon he slew the Tyranid Hive Tyrant and vanquished the Horde. He was restored to Admiral of the Illidan fleet, but this was a high price for Uriel, for this spear drew upon his life essence and would kill him eventually. He is different from many of the autarchs because he lacks the temperament or modesty that they are all taught on the path of command. But Uriel has constantly proven himself to be the best and brightest commander the Eldar possess, and so his modesty, or lack thereof, is, if not ignored, at least tolerated. During the fracturing of Baal-Tan, it was Uriel whose daring boarding action broke the back of the Chaos Space Marine invasion. But during this heroic act, he fell in battle with the Nurgle prince. I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, by the way. Garagulagor. Garagulagor? Garagul Garagul Gulgor. Screw you, Games Workshop. Right. His corpse-ridden body was cast into the void, and was recovered by his grief-stricken people. And were it not for the fact that Yvraine was nearby, and took the Spear of Twilight and drove it through his body, which normally would just sort of make things worse, but in this case, the spear returned some of the life it had stolen from Uriel, and was revealed to be one of the missing crone swords, needed to revive and empower Yned, the god of death. While his doom at the hand of the spear has been forestalled for now, he has been given back years of his life, and it is a good thing too, for these are desperate times for the Eldari, and Illidan needs its favoured son more than ever. Now for someone who actively remains an outcast from society, as opposed to Uriel, who sort of chose it out of, well, arrogance and a little bit of, shall we say, pride, we have Illic Nightspear, the Walker of the Hidden Path. Illic Nightspear of Altioch has walked the path of the outcast for thousands of years, seeking out the unknown paths that span the galaxy. He is known by different titles depending on the ranger band he is with: Sentinel of the Stars, the Wayforger, the Shield of Altioch. To Illic, these names don't really bother him, one is as good as the other. Such is his knowledge of the webway that it is said by the Eldari that he can arrive unheralded upon any planet, stepping through with the ease of a man drawing breath. Whilst this is probably an exaggeration, Illic clearly knows many of the hidden paths more than any other living being, save perhaps the Harlequins themselves. Over the centuries, Illic's knowledge has benefited Altioch and its fellow craftworlds markedly. He's guided countless war hosts through the winding paths of the webway, arriving to turn the tide of battle on more than one occasion. His worth to the craftworld's cause does not end with his arrival. His accuracy with a long rifle is unmatched in all the galaxy. It doesn't matter if you're an Orc warlord, a Necron, an Imperial Guard general, a Chaos champion, or a Space Marine chapter master, all have met their end under his watchful gaze. And his rifle is something very special, created by the ancient warrior smith Ildraneth, a bone singer of high regard. His rifle, known as the Voidbringer, claims its legend as the last of Uldraneth's great works, and into this weapon the master smith poured much of his soul into it. This rifle, empowered by the bone singer's psychic capabilities, each shot the Voidbringer makes tears a tiny hole into the wall, and tearing the target's body to smithereens. Illic has walked this path of the outcast for so long now that he is not even entirely sure he can leave it. He wanders the galaxy pursuing his own agenda, and his acolytes only whisper that he is the one thing that stops the Ranadandra, the end of all things, from happening. Though Illic prefers to fight alone, he has a huge following of outcasts who try to seek him out. Master snipers and trackers all try to find the Nightspear in order to learn from him, and he has such reputation that he is considered almost as legendary as the Phoenix Lords themselves. And with the opening of the Great Chaos Rip, and the warp spreading even more into reality, Illic's knowledge of the webway is more important than ever. He not only guides the Eldar, but also the Yunari, whose cause he believes in. And now we come to our final hero, and possibly one of the most influential Eldar figures in modern history. Well, if you exclude Yvraine from the Yunari, but that will be a topic for a separate video. Eldred Lutheran, perhaps the most gifted psyker to ever be born amongst the Eldar race. His gift of foresight has saved thousands of Eldar lives during his lifetime, igniting various conflicts as well as attempting to warn the Emperor of Horus's treachery and attempting to warn the Eldar of the Illidan world of the coming of the Tyranids. He has been instrumental in trying to save the Eldar race. Even before the fall of Cadia, Eldred was over 10,000 Terran years old, and his repeated warnings to even the humans, the Primarchs, of the various fates that could befall them have, well, some have fallen on deaf ears, and some have produced fruitful results. In fact, it was Eldred's farsight that encouraged the Eldar to launch a series of raids upon the Orcs, culminating in the emergence of Ghazghkull Fracka. Diverting the Orcs to Armageddon saved thousands of Eldar lives, and he believes that this sacrifice was justified, as the Eldar are a close to extinct race and get closer and closer every year, that trillions of humans dying to save thousands of Eldar was a perfectly sensible sacrifice to make. Eldred is so learned and so well travelled, it is rumoured he has even entered the Black Library, an ancient suppository of knowledge guarded by the Harlequins, who even have texts that are rumoured to have been written by the Old Ones themselves. And Eldred claims he has seen these texts, and how they mention the ancient enemy. Eldred Lutheran is a key figure in awakening the Eldar god of the dead Yined, and being instrumental in the creation of the Ynnari faction, who now believe that the only way to salvation is through the Eldar god of death. Eldred Lutheran's initial ritual was interrupted by the Imperial Death Watch, and this meant that the Eldar god of death was not wholly awakened, and it had to slowly and carefully take form, seeking out the champion Yvrain and founding the Eldar faction of the Ynnari. I've mentioned the Ynnari a lot with Eldred Lutheran, and it is mostly because he truly believes this is the only way for the Eldar to survive. Eldred Lutheran from the Uthway craft world is all in black. His armour, the armour of the last runes, is an ancient suit, depicted with Eldar runes of dying and of light. His staff of Ulthamur, an ancient force weapon, carried by the chief Farseer of Ulthway, forms a hyperspatial link with the infinity circuit of the craft world, drawing on its power and using it to destroy his foes. He is a difficult figure for many Eldar to accept, but the way things are shaping up, Eldred Lutheran might be on the right lines, although it might be a last-ditch effort by the Eldar to stop the inevitable. And there we have the most prominent figures in Eldar society, and, well, the ones you can play on the tabletop, at least. Or at least the ones that currently have rules in their army books. I'm sure more Phoenix Lords will come to light. I haven't mentioned the Phoenix Lord of the Shining Spears, or the Phoenix Lord of the Shadow Spectres, but I imagine in time models will come out for them, and more interesting history will come out for them as well. I hope you enjoyed this Eldar video. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. Make sure you press that little bell button so you hear when the next one's out, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Take care, everyone.